shadow on the wall that looks like a man. Lord, that lamp just moved on that stand. I got movement in the cellars, I got footsteps in the hall. There's no time to waste, I better make some calls. I gotta get ready, make everything right, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. Hey, round up the team, let's get started. Hey, this is Brother Mike. There's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. This old house has a long history. It should be real, real good for activity. And we got the house wired for sound and got motion alarms setting all around. Got a box full of batteries ready to go, and everyone's itching to start this show. Got our logo tees, driving black SUVs, and that one bald guy with a slick goatee. Hey, round up the team. Let's get started. Hey, this is Brother Mike. Well, there's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. Hey, round up the team. Let's get started. Hey, this is your big brother Mike calling. There's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. That's right. Go get 'em, boys.
And welcome everybody to PEMA TV.
Welcome to Friday, October 5th, 2012.
It's flying by.
Yes, but that's okay. This month can fly by because I get to go play with Mary at the end of the month.
We all get to go play with Mary at the end of the month.
Yeah, but she likes me best.
Okay. All right, guys. Lots of good stuff going on. Just real quick, want to throw that out there. I'm very proud of myself. I have been doing my yoga every day.
Yes, but he still can't touch his
not really
head,
changing
do
the
it
shape
with his
yet.
foot.
Not really changing the shape yet, but it's working on it. I do feel better. It does make a difference. It makes a huge difference. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, you go right up above our lovely little heads right here, or her lovely head and my rotten melon. You go up here on top of the website, there's some buttons, the World TV button. On Tuesday nights, we are showing a show called Namaste Yoga, and it's a beginning yoga class. And I'm doing it every day, every week. I've got a group started on Facebook. You can look it up on Facebook if you want to join us. It helps.
But there are lots of lovely shows on PEN, so
Yes.
come and watch all of them.
Yes. Speaking of lovely shows on PEN, nice segue, by the way.
Thank you.
Starting since Miss Foyer is moving to Monday nights with the rest of the ladies for our ladies' night on Mondays.
Our live ladies'
all
night.
live ladies' night on Mondays. Drink specials included. On Sunday nights at 9 o'clock, we are going to be showing a show. It is produced in Austin, Texas. It's called Psyche Truth. They cover a whole range of topics, conversations, interviews, some really good stuff. Feed your mind. Come watch us on Sunday nights, and you can do that.
And then show up on Monday to watch all of us.
Yep, on the live ladies' night.
That's right.
Yep.
Because that's how we roll.
Just saying.
Just saying.
But tonight,
I've got this one.
you go, girl.
Tonight, our special guest is an author, musician,
And a typer.
and an avid consumer of all things horror. Hi, Dan.
Hello.
This is Mr. Dan Dillard. who has
That's
written
me.
a ton of books.
I've written a few.
A few dozen.
I've got 5 books, bunch of short stories. I have no attention span, so I write a lot of short fiction.
Well, you know, me personally, I've always enjoyed the creep show type format, which is to say, I've always enjoyed the short story type format. You know, if you can't get it told in a short story, a novel is just a really flowery short story, right?
Yeah. A lot of people just say short stories are harder to write. I guess starting that way, I don't see it that way. But yeah, you should be able to get the information out really quick. But there are a vast majority of people, it seems like, that want more info. They want to know every detail about every blade of grass and every carpet fiber and every thought. So sometimes it takes a novel. I feel like it takes as long as it takes to tell the story.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. You also write with a slightly sarcastic sense of humor too. I gathered.
I see no sarcasm in there whatsoever.
Yeah, I have no response for that. It's just my personality, I guess.
No, but it really looks fun. I mean, demons and other inconveniences, what tangled webs, unlucky in death, how to eat a human being. I mean, it pretty much.
The unauthorized autobiography. How is that possible? I was going to ask you about that title. How is that possible?
Well, that book kind of looks at his life in pretty grueling detail, but it's not from his perspective. So while it is, I don't know. I guess it was kind of a play on words to start with, but that's kind of how I feel. It's his story told from his point of view, but not.
But without his permission.
I don't want to give away too much because
Gotcha.
The explanation comes in the end. You know why it's unauthorized.
Because he didn't get permission.
Possibly, yeah.
Well, I'm guessing. So what do I know?
Well, Dan, could you let our viewers know where did you have a traumatic haunted house experience when you were younger?
Or did you just like the creepy? What were they?
Yeah.
Creepy crawlers?
I had horrible night terrors as a child that lasted into my teenage years, and I think horror movies and horror books became kind of therapy for me.
Right.
I mean, I think the draw to horror is that it's this horrible experience that you know you're going to survive no matter how hard it is to get to the end of it. It's like a roller coaster. You know, you're pretty sure you're going to make it through. So it's kind of a celebration of surviving to the end of whatever it is. Without actually having to go through, being possessed or being haunted or whatever the story might be.
Well, it is if you're reading a book. If you go to the movies, sometimes you have to question that.
True.
Well, see, when freshman year in high school, a friend of mine and myself went to see the original Halloween with Jamie Lee Curtis.
Mm-hmm.
Which was really cool, but we didn't realize the movie didn't let out till 11 o'clock at night, and we had to take the bus home, and the bus stops were inside the park.
Oh, right.
So once it left you out in the park in October with the fog and the mist and the dew and everything else, it was really creepy getting home.
Right. So that's the sign of a good movie. If it lasts beyond the end of the movie, then they've done their job. Most of them are so forgettable. Even if they're fun, by the time it's over, 10 minutes later, you're moving on to something else. I think books are a little more intimate because you spend more time with them. Generally, I mean, even a short story, 75 pages long, you're going to spend more than an hour and a half reading that. At least I would. I'm kind of a slow reader. I know there are people out there that fly through stuff. But especially a novel, you're not going to sit down in an hour and a half and tear through a novel unless you're some kind of phenomenal speed reader. But so you get a little more invested, you use a little more imagination, and it's not being presented to you on screen, with 20-foot tall heads. And I think it tends to last a little longer, dig in a little deeper, and be a little bit creepier when it's over with.
Well, now it would be cool if you got halfway through a book and you had like this huge Michael Bay explosion come out of the middle of it. Now that would be cool.
Yeah, that's something you can do with ebooks.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah, not a real explosion. I mean, that would be the end of your e-reader. But you can add they can add links and videos and music and I've seen some that have kind of like these little mood backgrounds that swirl around depending on what's going on the page. There's all kinds of things you can do with ebooks. Yeah, if a real book exploded, that'd be exciting.
I'm a lot like you though. I'm a slower reader, but I also find that a lot of people that I know that are slower readers also tend to, once they put the book down, they think more on the book. They're not able to just immediately pick up another book and start it.
Yeah. I know people that'll read 3 or 4 books at the same time, kind of depending on their mood, is which one they'll pick up, and they start them and finish them at different times, but they're reading 3 or 4 books all at once. I can't do that. If I start one, I got to get to the end of it before I go into another one, because I get pretty hardcore into them.
Well, and that's the thing too, isn't it the breaks in between that the breaks in between when you start and stop, when I was 12 or 13, I read Bram Stoker's Dracula, the original version, which is probably a little too heady for me at that age. But once you get into the book, oh my God.
Yeah.
You read it and then you stop and then it's bedtime or whatever, you go to bed. Yeah, right, whatever. That ain't happening normally.
That's one of my favorite books of any genre. It's just a really well written story.
But once you get into the language, once you kind of, I guess, get used to the temperature of the water, so to speak. For me, it's always been the breaks. I guess I'm a medium speed reader. I'm not a real fast reader, but I'm not real slow.
You read a lot faster than I do.
But it's always, I'll intake a certain amount. It's like a meal, I guess. I'll intake a certain amount of information, then I need to stop and step back away from it. But I've also found that kind of heightens to the book, because you reach a point, if you don't go past the crescendo in the book, you'll reach a certain point that was written as a crescendo, and it's like, well, what's going to happen next?
Right.
But unfortunately, it's not. You're not having to deal with and coming next week. You can actually turn the page and read it if you really want to. But
yeah. I also find myself a lot of times rewriting sections if I'm reading something. I'm like, I wouldn't have done that.
Critiquing as you go. Yeah.
I don't know if it's critiquing necessarily. It's just like, and a lot of times where you're reading along and you'll go, "Wow, I never would have thought of that. That was brilliant." Which is that's when when I can't stop turning the pages, when I'm trying to pick somebody else's brain. Not so much what's going on in the story as much as how did he come up with that? What horrible thing happened to this guy or to this woman that they wrote that down? That's amazing.
Yeah, and considering that Bram Stoker was actually a woman. Wasn't it Mary Shelley? It was Mary Shelley, wasn't it? Oh, she wrote Frankenstein.
Yeah, Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein.
That's correct. I thought Bram Stoker was a pen name for her. For some reason, I thought that was her pen name. Anyway, even the original Frankenstein's actually pretty spooky.
Yeah, very sad.
But to be written by a woman.
Mm-hmm. And very young at the time too. I can't remember how old she was when she wrote that, but
18
like in her teens, maybe
18 or 19, something like that, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yep, very sad. All the classic monsters are really tragic.
Well, we were lucky enough to grow up in the 80s, and we had some hatchet wielding, chainsaw wielding. We grew up with some classic monsters ourselves. They just weren't as eloquently written, probably.
No, they were. No one felt sorry for them. Jason, Michael, Freddy. No one had any sympathy for any of them. They were just they were kind of more machine-like, I think, than.
Well, to Jason's defense, that they did try to throw a little sympathy out there with him drowning and stuff. But then when you found out it was his psychotic mother that caused it all.
Right, yeah, movie 1. The rest of them were... I mean, there's a big difference in the first Friday the 13th and the other 27, however many there are now.
Yeah,
Right?
They did get a little run in the... That's the one thing about the 80s movies, though, is they were copyable. They left enough, they were smart enough when they were written to be open-ended enough to where they could be
right.
redone.
Yeah, but after episode 97...
Yeah, when you start talking about being on a space station and then having to deal with these guys, yeah, that's a bit much. You know, when the Hellraiser guys went out into space, I think pretty much each time horror goes into space, it crosses a line. It crosses a geek line somewhere. There's a border between science fiction and horror. And
unless it starts there, like Alien and Event Horizon, some of those were well done in space, but they started in space.
Right.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're jumping the shark, I guess.
Yeah, you don't want to.
In the 80s, you didn't have Netflix and Redbox and easy access to get. Now you can watch anything you want anytime you want.
Well, and back in the 80s, when they came out with the new movie, it was out for 3 months. It wasn't out for 2 weeks, and then in the Redbox 3 weeks later.
You didn't have as many choices, so people went to the movie theater to see stuff, or went to Blockbuster Video and rented a tape. Who's done that recently?
And I never rewound them. I've got to say that. I never rewound the damn things. But, that's true too, Dan. I mean, and a scary thought right now, like our transmission, which is, of course, reaching literally dozens of people right now. People can watch us, and in fact, I know a few people that actually do this. They've already have the Google TVs.
Yeah.
So basically, that means you can watch as much as I say this, you can watch your internet porn on a 92-inch screen.
Interesting.
But like our shows, you can find PE.
Most technology comes from watching porn, doesn't it?
The most advances in media distribution have come from them. Yes.
Yeah. And why? Because most men are running the media distribution.
Well, you just
saying.
Mean, it's just the way it is. They started beta. You are correct, and they started beta. They've driven most of the major compression changes in file formats that have come out.
Yeah.
Just so you
but for the record, beta was a much much better format.
Yeah.
That was it wasn't as sad with like HD DVD and Blu-ray, that fight when HD DVD lost, because I already had the HD DVD player. It's much harder to say than Blu-ray. That didn't bother me, but beta lost to VHS. I was a little upset. Tapes were smaller, they were sturdier.
Yeah, but the box was impossible to get a hold of.
Well, it's because it lost the battle, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's like laser discs.
Mm-hmm.
Every now and again you go to a garage sale and you'll catch, or an estate sale, and not to sound creepy or anything, but you can find some really good stuff on Laserdisc.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not really good for anything other than a really, really, really heavy Frisbee.
True.
But,
good luck finding a player.
If you take your laser pointer and you spin that sucker really, 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 really fast.
Well, see, back then it was also hit and miss, though, because beta was much like the 8-track.
True.
It was a good idea at the time, but 2 weeks later, someone jumped the gun and threw in something.
Cassettes.
Yeah, smaller and more compact, and they just kind of got thrown to the side.
And Dan, I'm pretty sure you didn't think you was going to get asked this, but I'm going to ask this anyway. Did you ever make a mixtape?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I sat and listened to Rick Dees and the American Top 40, and sit and pause out the commercial, while you're waiting for the next song to come on, and yeah.
Yes, sir. Been there, done that.
Mm-hmm. I might even still have a stack of those somewhere. A box of cassettes somewhere from the 80s and 90s.
Can you imagine what archaeologists are going to find in 1,000 years?
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
I mean, they're going to go, well, this time frame from the late 60s till about 2020, oh, that was some jacked up stuff.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, Oh, who knows?
And I still have my case of cassettes, thank you very much.
Yeah. We still have some stuff that'll play them, but that's because we're hoarders.
Yeah, well.
Dan, getting back to your books. The one that I was very curious about, and I really wanted to ask you about, because once again, it is a play on words. Lunacy.
Okay.
Generally aimed at a younger audience. What was the inspiration for that?
I guess werewolves are probably my favorite of all creatures. I have no idea why. I've just always enjoyed that character. Probably when American Werewolf in London scared the crap out of me, and I was about 9 years old, and snuck upstairs to watch it while my parents were downstairs, and they were dumb enough to pay for HBO or whatever. And I wanted to write a story that dealt with werewolves in a little different way. And I had another story going at the same time. It's called Something Wiccan This Way Comes, and both of them ended up dealing with the full moon having the ability to show things that you wouldn't normally see. Things that might be able to hide in any other circumstance, but the full moon, for whatever reason, is able to point them out. And that just became the theme. I try to theme my collections so that the stories, they're not necessarily similar, but they might have a common thread that runs through them. So Lunacy is kind of howling at the moon, and that's where the title kind of came along with that same thought, that you might be able to hide it the rest of the month, but when the full moon's out, everybody knows you're crazy.
They don't sparkle, do they?
No, I don't do sparkly anything.
Thank you.
There's this short story in there called Legendary, which has got fairies and unicorns in it, and even they're mean and nasty. I don't really have any boundaries. I will murder children and puppies, and nothing's safe. Everything's fair game. So I did tone it down a little for Lunacy because I wanted to have something that my girls could read while
he was typing.
While they were still little, not have to wait 4 or 5 years before they could grab one of Dad's books and
right.
Not wonder if they're going to make it through till the next morning. Because there's a big difference if you look at Lunacy and then How to Eat a Human Being. There's quite a large gap between I don't know, intensity. I don't know. How to Eat a Human Being has some pretty hardcore violence, sex, just the worst things people can do to each other. Things most people probably don't think about, but I sit and ponder all the time. And then Lunacy is kind of I don't even know what the word would be for it. I just reeled in.
A little calmer.
There's some intense stuff in there, but it's
PG-13.
Yeah, I guess that's a good way to put it. Tone down the language, tone down a lot of it has to do with like the protagonist in the story Lunacy is a young guy in his early 20s, and he's dealing with some college student age characters for the most part. And then in Something Wiccan This Way Comes, it's about two brothers that are I think one's 10, one's about 13. And then in Legendary, it's like I said, it deals with unicorns and whatnot. There's also several poems in that for kids about nightmares and dealing with the monster in the closet or under the bed or wherever you might see it, and it's just more geared towards the younger group. So
I have monsters in my closet.
Do you?
Yeah.
And every now and again she lets me out.
That's good.
No, I make him get up and shut the closet door.
Another one of your works that, if you don't mind me asking, I have to ask you this question. What was the inspiration for Unlucky in Death? Because just the snippets that I was able to get my hands on, I think I'm in love with that book.
That's everybody's favorite. The inspiration for that actually was sparkly vampires. Because the first thing I thought was, okay, these, and I don't want to pick on Stephanie Meyer or Twilight, but I'm going to. If they are vampires and they have no reflection, how is their hair perfect? It bothers me. And that was really the what sparked that story. Is I was just thinking of all the things that would go wrong in reality if you took a real person in a real situation and made them a vampire. And then I was like, well, what if they didn't get super speed and super strength and all these things that you always see? I saw an interview with I can't remember if it was John Landis or Max Landis, who's John Landis' son. Anyway, the question was, how do you kill a werewolf? And the people were naming off, silver bullets or whatever all the legends are. And John Landis' answer is, you kill it any way you want because they don't exist. So that kind of fueled it too. So I was thinking, all right, say you're human and you are bitten by a vampire and you become a vampire. Nothing special happens. You crave blood, but you don't get any of the so-called legendary powers that go along with it. You carry all your neuroses from being, a henpecked husband or beaten down by a mind-numbing job or whatever that you had in your natural life over into this life that's not only not spectacular like they make it in the movies, but now it's also eternity. So you don't even have death to look forward to. And this guy's got to deal with he faints at the sight of blood. So here's a vampire that's trying to figure out how he's going to eat when he can't even
look at his food.
Yeah, he can't make a kill. He can't think about it. He swoons at the sight of strawberry jelly or ketchup. I mean, he's got issues. So he goes to a therapist and is trying to solve his problem, and she's no help, of course. She thinks he's, to her, him saying I'm a vampire is no different than him saying I'm Napoleon or Jesus or whatever. He's another crazy guy sitting in the chair across from her. So, yeah. But it was fun. It's being expanded. Me and some of my friends that do low budget films are trying to figure out a way to make a web series out of it. We've got a much bigger world for that story. That it'll take some time to get it done, because I don't want to throw it out there and have junk. I want to do it right. So that's a whole new world for me, trying to make videos or film or whatever, but it's fun.
I don't know. I think my favorite title is the one, Demons and Other Inconveniences.
Yeah, it's like almost sounds like a self-help book.
It does.
And that's kind of the way it's written too. There are several stories in that one, and they are all kind of black comedy, tongue-in-cheek, along the same lines as Unlucky in Death, which is in that book. But
well, we had another author on who wrote a book about how to kill garden gnomes with common household products under your kitchen sink. It's kind of what some of these remind me of, and they're hysterical. That's
funny.
But the whole thing with How to Eat a Human Being, is that the darkest book you've done so far, you think?
That one and What Tangled Webs are both very dark. That title, actually, it's kind of weird. I had the stories all together, and I was trying to think, what do I call these? I have no idea what to call these. And I went through several different titles, which I can't even remember at this point. And I was watching a documentary or something on YouTube about cannibalism. and they were talking about how in many cultures cannibalism is considered to be pretty much the lowest place you can get as a human being is eating another human being. And I was like, that's really true. I can't really think of anything more hardcore than that. So I just decided that was going to be the title. And I get questioned all the time: is it a cookbook? Is it not? I guess instructional. And there is a poem in there that's just a kind of a joke about a cooking class that's teaching them how to prepare and eat human beings. Right. But for the most part, those are just stories that are about the worst things that people do, like the lowest levels they get to, and what they do when they get there. There's one called Organ Donors. It's about a paramedic that takes that check mark on the back of people's driver's licenses a little too seriously, which is it's a fear that I've had. I don't know why. When I was 16, I got my first driver's license, and they were like, "Do you want to be an organ donor?" And I was like, "Explain that to me. What does that mean?" They're like, "Well, if you die, your organs can go to help people that need them." And the first thing that I thought was, I'm going to be in a wreck, and I'm going to be okay, but the EMT's great aunt's going to need a kidney, and he's going to take me out so he can ship that kidney to whatever hospital. And that's kind of how that story came about, is that thought's been around in my head for a long time.
Well, Dan, we're very similar in age, and that's why I was saying back in the 80s, that's why I kept saying we.
Right.
That was back when the story really first hit about people going to Mexico and waking up with a scar and being in a bathtub full of ice and all. That all started back then.
Yeah, and that may be where that fear came from. Was that story? The missing a kidney in the bathtub full of ice. Yeah, all those urban legends. Whether that was true or not, it's weird enough to be true.
Well, and then there's always the history books with the Donner Party.
Yeah. Well, that's a little different. That's out of
still, I mean,
dark necessity. But again, that's the lowest point. Probably the worst situation those people were ever in was, I'm going to die if I don't eat this dead guy, because that's the only food we have accessible.
And if I don't eat him, someone's going to eat me.
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, imagine that, sitting there chewing on somebody that you knew 2 days ago and wondering, if I die, are they going to eat me too? I mean, that's a pretty horrible thought, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I kind of felt sorry for them, because, I mean, with this particular group, they did do it out of absolute necessity, and so many people gave them so much grief and a hard time over surviving.
Yeah. Yeah, well...
And now, I mean, that they have shows on every channel where someone's out eating bugs and nasties and...
Yep. And you gotta, I mean, it's easy to say, that's sick, that's disgusting, but until you're in that situation, and, I hope no one ever, anywhere, has to deal with that kind of, I don't even know what you call it, but that kind of situation where your options are death, or I gotta eat
my cousin Joe, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't like him anyway, so nom nom.
Yeah, well, if you didn't like him, I don't know.
Yeah, but then but what if he was a clown, then he'd taste funny?
Oh, God, that's just rough right there.
Sorry, I had to throw that in there. But
you can't spell, what is it? You can't spell manslaughter without laughter.
Exactly. And,
yeah,
and here on PEMA TV, we put the fun in dysfunctional.
There you go.
Normally we put the fun in funerals, so either way you look at it.
We are the creepy couple in the graveyard. I have to ask you this, and okay. Hopefully I'm not missing anything with this, but is the zombie genre the only genre you haven't crossed into yet?
I've got...
You've dabbled your foot in the zombie pool, just haven't dived all the way in yet?
There's a story, and I think it's in Demons and Other Inconveniences. It's called Rotten Luck, that deals with a little bit of voodoo and some resurrection of the dead to get to an end. There's a little Haitian man that's mother's buried in a specific graveyard, and he doesn't want her buried there, and he asks them to move her, and they won't move her without all this paperwork being filled out. And so he invokes some pretty nasty character to bring the rest of the dead in that graveyard to life, so he can get his mother out of there. But that, I touched on it a little bit here and there, but I find it kind of tough to, and this is just my opinion, it's tough to write zombies because
they really don't do anything.
They're slow, they're dead, they eat people. You know, how many different ways can you say it?
But now we have the whole bath salt thing going on.
Right, that's a funny story. That happened about a week after I released How to Eat a Human Being.
Oh, wow. Good timing.
At least after I'd announced the title, we'll put it that way. And it was actually pretty good advertising for me, I guess, if you want to think about it.
Now, if you can only get Avon to put you in their catalog.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would be all right. I was considering changing it really at that point, because that's about as bad as it gets. Somebody's eating your face on the side of the highway, and doesn't really get any.
Yeah, but since then there's been 4 or 5 other people who have done it.
They're copycat salt or so.
Yeah, but one lady ate her 3-month-old baby. That's
maybe she just wasn't all that hungry.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I'm not sure if you know Jim B. from Colorado, but after talking about eating humans, he's inviting you to Thanksgiving.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Usually do turkey at Thanksgiving, but I'm game for trying anything new.
I'm thinking your dinner, but hey.
Yeah, I may have to maybe take a rain check on that.
You're allergic to fava beans?
I don't know. I'd like to talk to Hannibal Lecter. Those are my favorite. A lot of people don't like the really talky, in your head kind of sickos, but those are my favorite. The guys that get into your, get up under your skin and in your brain and
have a slight twist to where there's an odd sense of humor underlying all of it.
Yeah, and that's where the problem lies, when you find yourself laughing.
When you start cheering for him.
Yeah, which I always do. I've always cheered for the bad guy.
But those are also the characters, in a modern literature and filmmaking, those are the characters that most closely resemble the classic characters.
Right.
They're also the most memorable because they're just that little bit odd out to the side type.
Well, like when you start talking about Bela Lugosi and some of the other classic, especially film actors.
Peter Lorre, love Peter Lorre.
I mean, you start talking. They were able to visually weave a story. Is what it amounts to.
Right.
Today they just stun you with explosions and sparkles and stuff.
Villains are so much more interesting.
Yeah.
And they're typically more complex. You've got your hero is either trying to save somebody or prevent somebody from getting hurt, and that's pretty much the end of it. And there's a few. Batman is one of my favorite characters because he's a psychopath.
Mm-hmm.
He just happens to, thankfully, be on the side of the majority of the good folks. Or he's either that or he's not as crazy as the guys that he's up against. But imagine if he didn't have... if Batman got bored, how nasty would it be,
He's got really cool toys, too.
Well, the first person he'd take out would be Robin.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't blame him for that.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's got to leave Alfred.
Yeah. Well, Alfred is his moral compass.
Kinda, yeah.
Alfred must live on.
Mm-hmm.
But the original Batman series, especially the rebirth of it that happened late 80s with the Dark Knight series, it was really, it's some dark, the actual comic books, the movies don't do justice to what the novelettes and the the comic series, they don't do justice, and the stories get pretty twisted.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't know that because that's all they see is the movies.
Well, nobody equates, and they never really have comic books with having a story. It's always unless you are reading them. The majority, I think, the majority of people think it's a cartoon, it's a comic strip, which is a big difference. You know, they're so involved and so in depth, and they've been going on for so long, and these characters just have tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of complexity and backstory, and I don't know. I mean, just because it's illustrated, a lot of people, I guess, feel like it's not really literature, which isn't true.
Yeah, that's a common. It's a judging the book by its cover instead of what's inside it, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. You know? And you get the best of both worlds in a lot. I mean, the artwork is fantastic, and you know, you get stories too. And now, I mean, now they're getting a lot of respect just because of, you know, the Dark Knight series and the Avengers, all those different movies that came before the Avengers to make up the Avengers, and The Walking Dead. You know, in the horror level, like 30 Days a Night. These were all graphic novels and comic books before they were blockbusters. So
The Watchmen.
Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed The Watchmen. A lot of the diehard fans of the graphic novel, not so much. But I thought, for what it was, they did about all they could do. Same with the X-Men series. There's, you know, you're talking about going back 50 years where the comic books are more. There's only so much you can do in 2 hours.
Right.
To present, and so many characters, to give them any depth, so that people give a crap when they're looking at the movie. It's just. It's a different media, so you have to expect there to be a lot of differences.
Right.
What's annoying is when they write the movie out, and they put the movie out there, and then they throw in a sequel, and then they find an older book, and then in the movie
the whole
at the
Star
beginning.
Wars prequel thing. Yeah, that does kind of get irritating.
If you're not going to start from the beginning, then don't do it.
We're going to do this movie first. And then the next movie we put out actually happened 3 stories ahead of that one. Yeah,
Yeah, it gets confusing. I've spent so long complaining about remakes and reboots and all that. I don't even know anymore. I know that they're not aiming these remakes at me because I was there when the original came out.
Right.
But still, I still feel like a lot of these movies that they're remaking right now have plenty of legs left in them, and I've seen my kids. I've shown them some of the older versions of movies, and they've been just as excited to see them. Now, kids do enjoy this gloss of computer graphic, you know, CG special effects, where I prefer to see a dude in a rubber suit in a lot of situations.
Well, with the old black and whites, I mean, it wasn't so much exactly what was going on, it was how they made it. It was the music build-ups and the suspense, because I mean, most of the time the killer, the bad person, you rarely saw.
Mm-hmm.
You had no clue.
More about mood than being in your face. Yeah. Jaws is my favorite example of that, and I mean that's 70s. That's not even back when you're talking about, but the sharks on screen, you know, it's an hour plus into the movie before you ever see it, and that was just dumb luck that the rig didn't work the way they wanted it to, but it made it so much more suspenseful because you know what it is, you know it's there, and you know it's coming to eat them. But you know, it got to the point where you were more scared of the music than anything else.
And tell me be honest, when you jump in a pool now, even to this day, when you jump in a pool and you're underwater, that's the first thing that goes through your mind.
Yeah.
When you're heading back up to the surface to jump back from the bottom of the pool, you hear dun, dun.
Okay, imagine this, if you will. 2 months after that movie first aired, we went on vacation to California. We were swimming under the pier in Los Angeles.
Okay.
That evening, we went back with my grandpa and did some fishing off the pier, and 2 of the guys caught nurse sharks.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, imagine that sound playing in your head for the entire rest of the month you're in California.
Yeah. Yep. And that's what I was talking about. When, if the movie's done right, it lasts, it stays with you. And I mean there's not a lot of 25-foot sharks out there, but there's lots and lots and lots and lots of sharks. I don't care if they're a foot long.
Right.
They're still
absolutely. This one wasn't more than, I think, at best 3 feet long.
Yeah.
But it was the whole point. There was a shark. I just saw this movie.
Well,
Yep.
sharks are like bear traps. I mean,
Right.
they may not be physically all that big, and they may not be all that intimidating when you look at them. But if you stick your hand in their mouth, they're going to snap your arm off.
Yep.
That's the one thing about the shark. It's that element of danger, I think, that gets people too. But
Yeah.
your stories do much the same thing that what you're talking about. You get people in and you grab a hold of them, and it keeps you reading.
That's the plan. You try and set a background that's realistic and believable, so that when you throw something supernatural or something that doesn't belong there, it's a jolt because they're buying the world that you set it in.
Right.
That's the plan. Whether you pull it off or not, I guess that's the craft part of it, which I'm still always learning.
But is that like much like most communication skills? It's something you never really truly master. You just gain skills as you go.
I think that's true with pretty much anything.
Yeah.
Whenever you feel like you've mastered it, you may as well quit doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no fun then.
Yeah.
And you do promise and swear never to ever write anything that sparkles, right?
If it sparkles, it'll be for a totally different reason.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it will definitely. My vampires will be evil, vicious monsters, and I don't write very much with vampires. Like Unlucky in Death's vampires, so that's a comedy. And I have a couple other stories with vampires in them, but they're definitely not sparkly. They're not teens. They don't have angst. They don't
Angst.
They
Why
they
did
eat and they. Yeah.
Why did I get this vision of this huge big gold chain and big letters right there in the front? Angst. I don't know why that happened.
I don't know.
That's the visual I got. That was kind of scary, actually.
See, we actually have quite a bit of fun with the sparkly vampires because my daughter is a big fan, and we give her so much trouble over it.
Yeah, I mean, people post things on Facebook that there was the most recent picture I commented on was the guy that does the river monsters.
Yeah.
Is a picture of him holding some kind of like tiger carp or whatever the hell it was. It was, 9 foot long, got these huge crocodile looking teeth in the mouth, right? And its mouth's open. And I'll comment on pictures like that and say still a better love story than Twilight.
Yeah. My oldest read the first couple of books, and she was into the movies, and I cured her by making her watch The Lost Boys.
Right
The
on.
Lost Boys is a very good movie.
Bravo,
Yeah.
sir. Bravo. Well played.
I love
And when
The Lost
it was
Boys.
over, she just looked at me and she was like, "That was way better than Twilight." And I was like, "Yeah, see, and that's a takeoff on Peter Pan. That's a Disney story, basically."
Yeah.
Right. Of course, although my favorite part of the whole movie is Corey Haim in the bathtub singing.
Yeah, I ain't got a man.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I love that movie. The best part's the end. Where Grandpa says, what's he say? He says, one thing I never could stomach about Santa Carla is all the damn vampires.
Right. He acted like nothing was going on the whole time until his house was totally trashed.
And that's how, elderly, the people that have been around for a long time, they know what's going on.
They know more than we do. We just don't let them think that.
Yeah, it's
But yeah, that's a perfect example of werewolves. I love the movie Silver Bullet.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
Silver Bullet.
Corey Haim, I don't know how he winds up in all the ones I really like, but he did.
He was in everything in the 80s.
True.
We actually got to interview, not Corey Haim, but we did get to talk to Courtney Gaines.
Oh, yeah?
Who played
Malachi.
Malachi, yep. Yeah, he was in a lot of stuff in the 80s, too. He was in Back to the Future. And
Do you know he's got his own rock band now?
I think I saw that.
Ripple Street. Google it, Ripple Street.
Ripple Street.
Ripple, like the old Sanford and Son cheap wine.
Oh, yeah, Grady Tate wine.
Yeah,
Yep.
Ripple Street.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to look at that.
But we also, what you were talking about a minute ago, we also got to, at one of the conventions we went to, Kim was gracious enough to set up an interview with Ted White. And Ted White owns West Coast Productions, and he's either trained or been part of every major stuntman's career from
1902
since John Wayne until modern times.
Wow.
The reason why he was at this particular horror convention is they had everybody that had ever played
Michael or Jason.
Oh, yeah?
was there. And he played the original Jason, didn't he? Or Michael? One of the two. He was the original one.
I think he was Michael.
Yeah, the original back in the 70s make. He was like his last major part before he kind of stepped back, and he got to talking about how you were talking about we were talking about remakes earlier. And he said the only reason things keep getting remade in Hollywood is because Hollywood decades ago gave up being creative. Hollywood is now run by accountants. So the reason why things keep getting remade is because they know that the last one made this much, this one should make this much.
Well, and he said the writers have no imaginations anymore.
Yeah. But he said the greatest boon to filmmaking, modern filmmaking, was the CGI effects. It was also going to be the biggest downfall, too, he thought, because it's completely taking the human element out of it. Yeah.
If you suffered through the remake, whatever you want to call it, of The Thing that just came out a year or two ago, you can go online and search for the practical effects for that movie, and I'm drawing a blank as to the company, the production team that did the practical effects, but they had full-scale, beautiful practical effects done for that movie, and they covered the majority of them with CG, and I don't know why. And I'd love to see a cut of it with the real. Right. With the real effects.
Which is what John...
It's not going to help the movie any, but I'd like to see it without that. It's just unnecessary. I don't know why they would do it.
Well, and plus in that John Carpenter, I mean, that's what John Carpenter did. It was all live effects when they did it. There wasn't any animated effects added to that remake. Because the original Thing was just basically a guy in a gorilla suit covered in ivy.
Yeah, and that.
But John Carpenter's remake in 80 or 81 was, oh my God, that was mind bending back in those days.
Yeah, it still is. That movie holds up, I think. There's a whole section of really, I guess, they're in the late 70s, early 80s is a big wave of really good horror films. And I don't know if it's because that's when I was really getting into them, or if that's just because they were making them better.
Well, I think that's when it wasn't... We were coming out of the dramatic music and suspense, and it was really our first look at the blood and the gore and everything else. Because, like Carrie.
Yeah.
Carrie was a very good movie. And that was one of those that totally threw everybody at the end.
Yep. And they're remaking that one for the second time. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that I've heard anybody say, that PG-13 horror movie I saw last weekend was the best one I've ever seen.
Said by no one ever.
Yeah. I can think of a couple. I mean, The Ring was really good for a PG-13 horror movie. The Poltergeist was actually PG, although I'm surprised at that, but fantastic horror movies, one of my favorites.
That little short lady, I never can remember her name, but she's creepy. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Tangina Barrett was the character's name. I can't remember the actress's name.
But back then, the PG rating was totally different from now.
Mm-hmm.
True, yeah.
Because back then, you had to be 17 to get into an R-rated.
Yeah. And they would actually tried as best they could to prevent you, except drive-ins, because they never checked the damn trunk.
Nope. Yep. Mm.
But I mean,
tire tools hurt when you lay on them. I'm just going to.
But now, my daughter took my granddaughter, who's 4, to see Paranormal.
Yeah.
Which looks really cute, and she's like, "Yeah, no, kids should never see this."
Yeah, we took our kid. There's a a drive-in here in Bloomington, and we hadn't been yet. We've been here a few years, and we hadn't been to the drive-in. And Paranormal was playing, and I was like, "That's the perfect movie." You know, it's basically a '50s kind of creature feature, and so we took them to see that. And there are some pretty intense moments, so I wouldn't suggest it for the youngest kids, but it was a lot of fun.
Oh, I want to see it. I absolutely want to see it. She
a lot of fun.
But she said for the littler ones, which they didn't rate it, to where little ones shouldn't really see it.
No, it's a PG movie.
She said that it was a little too much.
Well, Dan, what have you got in the works?
Oh Lord, all kinds of stuff.
That you can
probably have.
Tell us about.
I probably have 15 or 18. I'll just say stories in the works. I never know how long they're going to be. Like I said, I write them till they're done, and then I hand them over to my wife, and she proofreads them and tells me whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. And then I have a few people that I beg and plead to do my editing for me, and then it goes round and round and round until the story's done. And then there's a couple of screenplays. Like I said, I'm working with some friends on an Unlucky in Death. I think I'd like for it to be a web series. I think it would do really well as a series of five or probably 5-minute shorts. Any more than that, and you'd be doing too much in one sitting, but without driving the joke into the ground. And then I've got a couple of feature-length screenplays that I'm working on with some folks out in San Francisco. One's about a boogeyman, and it's a kind of, the best comparison I could give it would be something like The Goonies. You got a group of kids that are saving the day from a monster that none of the parents would believe, if they told them or if they showed them a photograph. So they've got to deal with it themselves. And then the other one is it's an old novel from the 60s, science fiction horror, that we're trying to do a screenplay for. It's kind of complicated. It's actually a very simple story, but it's very complicated to translate to screen. So it's been through the ringer, and hopefully we'll work that out here pretty soon.
It's not anything written by Asimov, is it?
No, okay. It's a Frederick Brown story called The Mind Thing.
Okay.
The twists and turns you could add to that.
Yeah.
It's basically a giant. It's like a science fiction evil alien brain from space. On the surface, it's like a popcorn munching, hokey story. It's almost Frederick Brown wrote a lot of funny in his stories, and it's kind of, I guess, if you looked at it too close, which I have, I find it kind of almost like a comedy. It's very silly, I guess, and we're trying to make it a little more serious and make a little more sense. But it's a fun story. It's terrifying. I hope we can portray that.
Right. You don't want to go Mars Attacks with it.
Well, that's one. That's one thing we talked about when we started looking at it was, what's the tone? I mean,
right.
Pure horror, pure science fiction. You just make it a comedy and script it like it was coming straight out of the book that he wrote. But after playing with it for a while, it's really scary in a Freddy Krueger sort of sense.
Right.
Because it takes control of its victims while they sleep, and then it basically runs them like a puppet to do whatever it needs to do to get to the next step. And the goal is to get back home, because it's an alien, like I said, and it's not on its planet. It's trying to get back to its planet. But the only way it can move from host to host is for that host to die. Once it's in its host, and it could be a mosquito, or it could be a human being, it could be a grizzly bear, it doesn't matter. Once it's in there, the only way it can escape is to kill its host. So the tension builds, because okay, it's taken this kitten, and it's got to move from this kitten to this old man that lives on the outskirts of town. Well, it's got to kill the cat, and then once it's in the old man, the tension builds and builds and builds, because he's going to die. You just don't really know when or how, or who the next victim is. And then you've got, of course, the Scooby-Doo team that's trying to solve the mystery of all these suicides, apparent suicides.
Right.
So it's complicated, like I said.
Somehow I get the whole Men in Black, the head blows off, and there's a little guy at the controls inside the head.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it, I guess. This one's more of like a mental thing. It's a tough book to find. I even had hard time finding it on Amazon. But if you look it up, The Mind Thing, it's a short novel. I don't know, 150, 175 pages long.
Mm-hmm. It's a novel, but just barely.
Well,
not a novelette.
Novel is it depends on the publisher that you talk to as to how many words that's supposed to be and how many pages long that's supposed to be.
True.
It's
not War and Peace. Let's put it that way.
No, it's not War and Peace. It's a quick read. Let's say that it's a quick read. It's a weekender.
Here you go.
Mm-hmm.
Are you doing any more shows, or do you have any conference appearances or anything that you're going to be doing anytime soon? Book signings or anything?
Nothing scheduled right at the moment. I have a day job that pays the bills while I try to make the books pay the bills. And I just started that job not too long ago, so I'm trying to get that under my belt. I do go to conferences. I go to, we have Horror Hound and Days of the Dead and all kinds of paranormal festivals here in southern Indiana, and I try to go to all of those. Most of the time, like, I'm just a spectator. I walk around and I look at what everybody else is doing. But I do meet a lot of people through that, and made some pretty interesting friends going to those shows. And
well, we're in the paranormal, and we've been to several conferences ourselves, and I'll have to tell you, the paranormal community is scary as hell.
Yep. Yeah. I guess it should be.
Well, there's some great authors out there, though. We've met that run kind of in his area. Jay Seppel and Bertina Varney and all those guys.
Yeah. The majority of the writers that I know through like Facebook and Twitter. Don't see a whole lot of writers at the conventions unless it's a writers convention, or there are a handful, like the last Gen Con that came through Indianapolis had what they called I think it was called Authors Alley or Authors Avenue or something like that for genre writers, where they had a special section of the convention just for authors. So they are popping up a little more here and there at the conventions, but
well, if you ever get your web series ready to go, need a place to play it, please come back. Please think of us.
I will.
We definitely love to show them. We show some works from some of the other friends we have. Tommy Golden, Johnny Hauser, all filmmakers.
The Booth Brothers.
The Booth Brothers.
Even if it's just the teasers, we'll throw the teasers out there.
Yeah. Me and one of my friends have been joking around. We're going to make a 2-minute trailer for a 3-minute movie.
There you go.
There you go.
just to put it out and toy with people. The movie would just, the only thing different between the trailer and the movie would be like the end credits.
There you go. I like the way you think. That's good.
Yep. Yeah. Anything we can do.
Well, then it wouldn't be false advertisement because people would have seen the best parts already.
Exactly. They'd just be in a different order.
Yeah. There you go.
with an announcer.
And
the movie voice guy did die.
Yeah, I remember that. That wasn't too long ago.
Yeah.
Poor movie voice guy.
May he rest in peace.
I'm sure there's a million. What are they called? Impressionists.
Oh yeah.
A million of them probably that could do that job.
Frank Caliendo, he comes to mind, and he's probably out of work too.
Edwin
Neal. He's probably a little expensive.
Huh?
Edwin Neal is very good.
Edwin Neal's probably not that cheap though. Edwin Neal's probably fairly expensive.
Yeah, but Edwin Neal did a clip for us, a commercial for our network, and he did it in the voice of Vincent Price, and he is dead on.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah. Well, Dan, it is coming to about that time.
Okay.
We would like to thank you so very much, and please tell everybody where they can find you, find your books, find non-sparkly things.
Yeah, my website is demonauthor.com, all one word, DEMONAUTHOR. There's links to all of my stuff there. I'm also on Facebook, Facebook/demonauthor, and on Twitter you can find me at demonauthor. Let's see, books are available on Amazon if you want paperback, or for the Kindle, for the Nook, for the Sony e-reader, if you got an iPad, if you're one of those people, or Smashwords. You can get pretty much any format through Smashwords for any e-reader there as well. And my collections are all $2.99. There's some individual short stories out there that are free. And then every Friday, except today because I was busy today, but every Friday I try to put a short story up on my website. And I won't claim proper grammar or editing or even spelling on the website. But like I said, I crank those out that day. Usually I'll do it at lunch or right after work, and they're short, 1,500-1,800 words, so you can read them in a 10 or 15 minutes.
Kind of like doing P90X for your writing skills.
Yeah, and that's basically what it is. It's just I force myself to come up with a quick idea, and I crank something out, and I've heard that it's bad. You know, that the great Stephen King said that every idea you have isn't worth writing about. Don't do it. But I do. So all respect to the man, but whatever.
Well, they can also find you on...
He also did a lot of LSD. I don't know how you take that. Sorry.
They can also find you on Facebook.
I'm on Facebook. Yep, Facebook.com/demonauthor. Or you can search Dan Dillard Author and you'll find me. Facebook, Twitter, Google+. Pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, I've been stalking him for a week. I'm driving him crazy. So much so he shot himself in the head this morning.
Yeah. Everybody check out my new status photo. It's a nice quarter-size hole in my forehead. Actually, look through all my pictures. I've got a bunch of old movie posters and stuff that I input myself in. American Werewolf in London poster. I'm in the Zombieland poster. I'll probably get some kind of cease and desist for using other people's stuff, but it's fun.
Now go look around Facebook. You won't get it. They would run out of electronic ink trying to write cease and desist for that.
True, that's true.
So,
and I'm not selling them. I'm just putting them up there to be silly. It gives you a good idea of the stuff that I write. You look through my my profile pictures.
Well, yeah.
There you go.
He and Jimmy Kelly both do the whole Photoshop. Let's jack with this and see how this works, and yeah. They're fun to look at, though. They're fun.
Yeah, it's better than that horrible picture where somebody's standing in their own bathroom mirror with their cell phone.
Especially when you can still see their cell phone or the toilet paper roll that's on top of the toilet. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd rather put a little effort into it.
Right.
Well, I like your pictures. One of your pictures is what made me pay attention to what you were doing and go, hey, you want to come on our show?
And see where that got you?
Yeah. See how much trouble that got you into?
Oh, well, Dan, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We surely do appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I had a good time.
And we're going to have you back on if you don't mind.
That'd be great.
And everybody, go buy the books.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe we can hunt ghosts next time.
Well, that's a whole other topic we could talk about.
Absolutely.
So
I'm a hard skeptic. You have a good time convincing me. So I'd actually probably be a good part of a team hunting ghosts, because I'm going to tell you all the reasons that you're wrong.
okay. And I
not that I wouldn't like to believe. I just, like I said, I'm a hard skeptic.
Well, we have a couple of locations that could change your mind.
Yeah, we got a couple of places we could take you that would probably change your mind.
All right.
And it wouldn't even be us telling you anything about it. It would just be the places doing their thing.
Well, that's intriguing.
That's us. That's us. We're creepy and intriguing.
Creepy and intriguing.
We're like the Millionaire Bar of the paranormal here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we break in pieces. And with that...
All right. With a crusty outside. Yeah, that's us. And with that, we're going to get out of here. Let me tell everybody, come join me. How about this? Since you can't hear me when I go to this, I'm going to put up the link to come listen to me on Yeti Radio. I'll be on air here in about 45 minutes. And I'm going to put this up there so you can see the address real quick, and then I'm going to exit out of here. I'm going to exit stage left.
And before he does that, don't forget, every night of the week, something different, something interesting. Monday becomes our first full live 3 hours. 2 hours? Okay, 2 hours.
Not until the 22nd. It'll be 3.
Whatever. Ladies' night, Monday. Mary and I, just saying, have Jody cook. And Jody is an absolute blast. You will love him.
Yeah, Jody's cool.
Now you can do what you want to do.
Bye, guys.
Night.
Specials included. On Sunday nights at 9 o'clock, we are going to be showing a show. It is produced in Austin, Texas. It's called Psyche Truth. They cover a whole range of topics, conversations, interviews, some really good stuff. Feed your mind. Come watch us on Sunday nights, and you can do that.
And then show up on Monday to watch all of us.
Yep, on the live ladies' night.
That's right.
Yep.
Because that's how we roll.
Just saying.
Just saying.
But tonight,
I've got this one.
you go, girl.
Tonight, our special guest is an author, musician,
And a typer.
and an avid consumer of all things horror. Hi, Dan.
Hello.
This is Mr. Dan Dillard, who has
That's
written
me.
a ton of books.
I've written a few.
A few dozen.
I've got 5 books. Bunch of short stories. I have no attention span, so I write a lot of short fiction.
Well, you know, me personally, I've always enjoyed the creep show type format, which is to say, I've always enjoyed the short story type format. You know, if you can't get it told in a short story, a novel is just a really flowery short story, right?
Yeah. A lot of people just say short stories are harder to write. I guess starting that way, I don't see it that way. But yeah, you should be able to get the information out really quick. But there are a vast majority of people, it seems like, that want more info. They want to know every detail about every blade of grass and every carpet fiber and every thought. So sometimes it takes a novel. I feel like it takes as long as it takes to tell the story.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. You also write with a slightly sarcastic sense of humor too. I gathered.
I see no sarcasm in there whatsoever.
Yeah, I have no response for that. It's just my personality, I guess.
a shadow on the wall that looks like a man. Lord, that lamp just moved on that stand. I got movement in the cellars, I got footsteps in the hall. There's no time to waste, I better make some calls. I gotta get ready, make everything right, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. Hey, round up the team, let's get started. Hey, this is Brother Mike. There's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. This old house has a long history. It should be real, real good for activity. And we got the house wired for sound and got motion alarms setting all around. Got a box full of batteries ready to go, and everyone's itching to start this show. Got our logo tees, driving black SUVs, and that one bald guy with a slick goatee. Hey, round up the team.
No, but it really looks fun. I mean, demons and other inconveniences, what tangled webs, unlucky in death, how to eat a human being. I mean, it pretty much.
The unauthorized autobiography. How is that possible? I was going to ask you about. I was going to ask you about that title. How is that possible?
Well, that book kind of looks at. It looks at his life in pretty grueling detail, but it's not from his perspective. So while it is, I don't know. I guess it was kind of a play on words to start with, but that's kind of how I feel. It's his story told from his point of view, but not.
But without his permission.
I don't want to give away too much because.
I got you.
The explanation comes in the end, you know, why it's unauthorized.
Because he didn't get permission.
Possibly, yeah.
Well, I'm guessing, so what do I know?
Well, Dan, could you let our viewers know where did you have a traumatic haunted house experience when you were younger?
Or did you just like the creepy, what were they, creepy crawlers?
I had horrible night terrors as a child that lasted into my teenage years, and I think horror movies and horror books became kind of therapy for me. Right. I mean, I think the draw to horror is that it's this horrible experience that you know you're going to survive no matter how hard it is to get to the end of it. It's like a roller coaster, you know, you're pretty sure you're going to make it through. So it's kind of a celebration of surviving to the end of whatever it is, without actually having to go through, being possessed or being haunted or whatever the story might be.
Well, it is if you're reading a book. If you go to the movies, sometimes you have to question that.
True.
Well, see, when freshman year in high school, a friend of mine and myself went to see the original Halloween with Jamie Lee Curtis. Mm-hmm. Which was really cool, but we didn't realize the movie didn't let out till 11 o'clock at night, and we had to take the bus home, and the bus stops were inside the park.
Oh, right.
So once it left you out in the park in October with the fog and the mist and the dew and everything else, it was really creepy getting home.
Right. See, that's the sign of a good movie. If it lasts beyond the end of the movie, then they've done their job. Most of them are so forgettable. Even if they're fun, by the time it's over, 10 minutes later, you're moving on to something else. I think books are a little more intimate because you spend more time with them. Generally, I mean, even a short story, 75 pages long, you're going to spend more than an hour and a half reading that. At least I would. I'm kind of a slow reader. I know there are people out there that fly through stuff. But especially a novel, you're not going to sit down in an hour and a half and tear through a novel unless you're some kind of phenomenal speed reader. But so you get a little more invested, you use a little more imagination, and it's not being presented to you on screen, with 20-foot tall heads. And I think it tends to last a little longer, dig in a little deeper, and be a little bit creepier when it's over with.
Well, now it would be cool if you got halfway through a book and you had like this huge Michael Bay explosion come out of the middle of it. Now that would be cool.
Yeah, that's something you can do with ebooks.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah, not a real explosion. I mean, that would be the end of your e-reader. But you can add they can add links and videos and music and I've seen some that have kind of like these little mood backgrounds that swirl around depending on what's going on the page. There's all kinds of things you can do with ebooks. Yeah, if a real book exploded, that'd be exciting.
I'm a lot like you though. I'm a slower reader, but I also find that a lot of people that I know that are slower readers also tend to, once they put the book down, they think more on the book. They're not able to just immediately pick up another book and start it.
Yeah. I know people that'll read 3 or 4 books at the same time.
Let's get started. Hey, this is Brother Mike. Well, there's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set. Let's turn off these lights. 'Cause all my rowdy friends are ghost hunting tonight. Hey, round up the team. Let's get started. Hey, this is your big brother Mike calling. There's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set. Let's turn off these lights. 'Cause all my rider friends are ghost hunting tonight. That's right. Go get 'em, boys.
Welcome everybody to PEMA TV.
Welcome to Friday, October 5th, 2012.
It's flying by.
Yes, but that's okay. This month can fly by because I get to go play with Mary at the end of the month.
We all get to go play with Mary at the end of the month.
Yeah, but she likes me best.
Okay. All right, guys. Lots of good stuff going on. Just real quick, want to throw that out there. I'm very proud of myself. I have been doing my yoga every day.
Yes, but he still can't touch his
not really
head
changing the shape yet.
Foot.
Not really changing the shape yet, but it's working on it. I do feel better. It does make a difference. It makes a huge difference. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, you go right up above our lovely little heads right here, or her lovely head and my rotten melon. You go up here on top of the website. There's some buttons. The World TV button. On Tuesday nights, we are showing a show called Namaste Yoga, and it's a beginning yoga class, and I'm doing it every day, every week. I've got a group started on Facebook. You can look it up on Facebook if you want to join us. It helps.
But there are lots of lovely shows on PEN, so
Yes.
come and watch all of them.
Yes. Speaking of lovely shows on PEN, nice segue, by the way.
Thank you.
Starting since Miss Foyer is moving to Monday nights with the rest of the ladies for our ladies' night on Mondays.
Our live ladies'
all
night.
live ladies' night on Mondays.